Welcome back to my Dandelion Diaries. Okay, there's enough of that. This is going to be a Halloween special ink edition. So today we're going to be writing in blood. Not actually, these are just going to be inks that look a lot like blood. So I apologize if I made any jump scares so far, and I do apologize in advance for any of the swatches today because they will look pretty gross in my opinion. Well, gross. It's red ink. So if you like red ink, this is 100% up your alley. I don't always write with red ink. It reminds me a lot of like correction papers of when I was in grade school and my paper would come back all marked up and red. So not always my favorite. But we are going to be swatching 10 inks today, and all of them have a little bit of a bloody look to them. As for supplies today, this is a A5 Hobonichi journal with the original Tomoe paper. I have my tape dispenser decked out with some vampire teeth for on-trend Halloween vibes. We have my Kakimori brass tip pen with the sakura wood handle, a plastic dropper, a little condiment cup here inspired by Leanne Likes, a jar of water, and then my old t-shirt. So yeah, we're gonna just jump straight in. I'm probably gonna start with ones I feel are a little bit more red, and then we'll get to more of the bloody colors as we go on. So first up, we have Monteverde's Valentine Red. Monteverde's Valentine Red is this nice dark red color. It has some gorgeous shading. Monteverde is a great ink brand. They're relatively inexpensive, and the flow in the pens that I've used them in has always been fantastic. I've never had any issues with this brand. I would say in terms of, reds, again, it's not necessarily too super dark and bloody looking. It's just more of a dark red. So this one's probably a little bit friendlier than some of the other ones we're going to be getting to. Next we have Sailor Shikiori Yodaki. This ink is definitely a lot darker and more bloody looking when it starts out, but I will say as it dries down, it turns into this gorgeous red color. Again, probably a bit more mild than some of the ones we're going to be dealing with today, but it is still a really fun ink. Since it is a Sailor ink, it does usually have some kind of fun properties to it. This one isn't as intense as some of the other brands or other lines from this brand. So the Monyo line typically has a lot of chroma shading, and the Shikiori brand, and the Shikiori line typically is a little bit more standard. This one does have a nice sheen to it when it dries down though, and overall is a really nice quality ink if you like red colors. The next ink we have here is Wearingeul's Dracula. Wearingeul's Dracula is not necessarily a red to me. It's honestly a bit more red pink when it dries down, but being that this is a blood inks video, I really wanted to include Dracula because I just felt it needed to be in this collection. This ink is so beautiful. The shimmer and the shading in this is stunning. Honestly, in terms of reds, since it is a bit more red pink, I would probably be drawn a little bit more towards this than some of the other more red colors. Yes, I love this ink. It is so fun, and I wouldn't buy a bottle because I don't write with red enough, but it is still really fun, and if you wanted a good, fun red ink, I definitely would recommend Dracula to you. The next ink sample we have here is Diamine Writer's Blood. This ink, I believe, was created after a Reddit group suggested the ink colors to Diamine, and I believe this has happened a few times already, which is really exciting. And Writer's Blood isn't necessarily a blood color to me, but it says blood in the title, so it's in this video. It's like almost like a purplish red black. Honestly, in writing, it is much darker than in the swatches, so just keep that in mind. And if you put it in a fine nibbed pen, it ends up looking a little bit more purple to me than red, but that just might be my experience. I really do love this ink. It is Diamine. It's a classic. It's wonderful. The color when it dries down is gorgeous. It has some shading and some sheening, but I'll save that for the end. Just know that if you wanted to write with Writer's Blood, don't use your own, use this ink. Next up, we have DeAtramentis Cherry. Have you ever eaten so many cherries that like your lips turn this dark red bloody color? Well, that's what I think about when I think about this ink. DeAtramentis has some gorgeous inks and so many colors to choose from, and there were honestly probably some other reds by DeAtramentis that I could have used for this video, but I felt like Cherry just, it was spot on for the color of blood. So when this ink first goes down, it's kind of like this red color, and then as it dries, it has this gorgeous, almost dark, like crusted red color. Oh, that sounds so gross. Yeah, this one's a really good one if you actually want to look like you're writing with blood, in my opinion. As for consistency, DeAtramentis does a really good job with flow and like just overall wetness of inks. I have never had a dry experience with DeAtramentis and overall really enjoy their inks. I think I talk about their inks a lot in my videos and really like this brand. But yeah, they do have lots of other red colors. You don't have to pick this one. I just really liked this color specifically for a blood-like color. The next ink we have here is Wearingeul's Human Problem. This has also been known as Wearingeul's Human Issue. Out of all of the inks we will be swatching today, this one is my favorite in terms of writing with a blood-like color. It actually really does look like blood in person. It's kind of gross and scary. I would definitely say in terms of color, again, it's spot on. And then when this ink specifically dries down, it gets darker, like fresh blood turning into dried blood. We'll just say that. I'm not going to describe this one too much because it actually does kind of gross me out a little bit, but it is still my favorite blood red ink that I will be swatching today. Next up, we have Robert Oster's Astorquiza Red. This ink honestly is a lot more muted than some of the other reds on the page, and I can definitely appreciate that right now as I have swatched a lot of red so far. Let me just say that Robert Oster does have really nice ink flow in my opinion, and for price they're pretty average. In terms of color, Astorquiza Red is definitely a rotted color to me. It's like almost like a rust maybe, if we're not going to be comparing it to any kind of like bodily fluids. It does look a lot like rust when it dries down. Actually, that's a really good comparison. And it does have lots of shading, and it does have a very minor sheen. So if you want to see that, make sure to check out the end when we do the review. Next up, we have Herbin Rouge Grenat. This color is so beautiful. I did want to include it in the blood category just because it is a very nice dark red, but in terms of pigment, it's actually much more vibrant. I feel like the color behind this is an actual garnet-like stone, which is what this, I believe, ink is named after, which is a red garnet. And yeah, I love this ink. It is so pretty. I will say the Herbin inks tend to be a bit drier for me, which I know I've said in plenty of videos at this point, but it is still gorgeous. And honestly, if you put it in a wet flowing pen, you will have no issues with this, or you could even add something like Vanessa's White Lightning to it and work with it that way too. I really love this color. I did want to include it in the bloods because it's a dark red color, but I don't really see this one as looking as bloody as some of the other ones on this page. Next up, we have a Robert Oster exclusive with Pen Chalet again, and this one is Sedona Red. This color honestly is very bloody in the beginning when it first gets swatched down. It looks like wet blood on the page, much like the Wearingeul's Human Issue. But I would say as it dries, it becomes a lot more beautiful and almost like a dusty red color. Sedona is in Arizona, and that is where Pen Chalet is located. And I love that all of the Robert Oster inks that they have done with Pen Chalet are kind of catered towards their location, because this is just, I don't know, it reminds me of Arizona, and it's beautiful. And last but not least, this wouldn't be a blood inks video without Diamine's Oxblood. Diamine's Oxblood is actually more of a brown red color to me. It doesn't necessarily dry down to the color of what I believe blood looks like, but when you first watch it, oh my gosh, it's just creepy. Yeah, it's a beautiful color. Honestly, in writing, it's much darker, much like the Diamine's Writer's Blood. It is almost like a brown red, like a dark brown red in writing, almost maybe a dark brown red black, depending on which pen you put it in. And it is gorgeous. Again, it's Diamine, it's tried and true, it's a gorgeous color, and I believe this one is probably the most popular ink in terms of the reds that I've done today, but if I'm wrong, correct me in the comments, because I know a lot of you guys really like your red inks. Okay, I'm gonna let all of these finish drying down. I'm really sorry if this grossed anybody out watching me put down a bunch of red blobs on the page, but this was super fun. So I will see you guys in a minute when all of these have finished drying, and we'll do some close-ups, and they won't look as bloody as they do now, I promise. Alright, so they have dried down pretty much. I would definitely say we have a couple of wet spots still, but let's zoom in and I'll go over each one individually. So starting off, we had Monteverde's Valentine Red. Like I said, this one's not really a blood red color. It's just a nice dark red. Honestly, I didn't remember it having a sheen, but it has a beautiful green sheen to it. You might be able to see it there. And I really like this one. It does have some darker shading in the middle. It's not too drastic, so it wouldn't be, I don't know, anything super exciting. I would definitely say this is a good standard red ink. It actually looks a little bit more pink red on camera, but in person it's a bit more flat red. Then we had Sailor Shikiori Yodaki. I love this ink so much. It is so fun. It has this gorgeous green sheen, like I said, and it has dark red shading. In terms of bloodiness, I don't think this one's very bloody. It's a little too warm. It's just a beautiful red, like dark red color, and I felt like it fit really well with this category just in terms of coloring. Next we had Wearingeul's Dracula. And yes, this ink is not bloody red. It doesn't really fit in this category, but it's Dracula. I mean, vampires drink blood. It fits, okay? It has this gorgeous, almost chameleon-like shimmer. On camera, it looks really blue, but in person, it looks kind of pink. So, very fun shimmer particles in this one. It does have a very minor black sheen on the edge here. You may not be able to see it. And then in terms of shading, it does have a little bit of a darker red like center, and then the base color is more of like a pinky red color. It is definitely more of a pink red toned ink than a red, but it's still a gorgeous color nonetheless. Then we had Diamine's Writer's Blood. Like I said, this one's probably more red-black in my opinion. It's gorgeous. It writes very dark in every pen that I've tried it in. It doesn't really write red to me. It definitely writes a bit more like off black. It does have a gorgeous kind of like light green sheen. I don't know if the camera will pick it up because it's only around the edges right there. This whole swatch pretty much shaded, which I've never had happen before. But it does have a nice kind of base color of like a burgundy wine red almost. And then the shading does go to like more black red. We had DeAtramentis Cherry. I would say this is our first ink that looks pretty bloody. The base is definitely a cherry red color, and the shading does dry down to more of that kind of like reddish black color again, but not as dark as Writer's Blood. DeAtramentis flows very well. It's still wet kind of in the middle there. There's no sheen or shimmer for this one. It's just pretty flat in terms of shading. Still gorgeous, and I still really like this one. Then we had Wearingeul's Human Problem or Human Issue. Yeah, this one, it looks like blood in person. It's uncanny. It's kind of scary, actually. The dark red center there is definitely some nice shading, and then the base color is a bit more of a true red, in my opinion. It doesn't really lean cool or warm. It's just pretty true red. It does have a very minor green sheen. I don't really have many experiences with the sheen actually showing up in writing, so I think it's just something that's very small in residue in a big swatch. Then we had Robert Oster's Astorquiza Red. Does have a nice black green sheen on this one. Again, beautiful dark red shading. I would say this one's just a more muted version of the Human Issue. It's still red. On camera it looks a bit more orange compared to the Human Issue. Like I said, the Human Issue is a true red in my opinion. But the Astorquiza Red is definitely a close match to it in person. It's just a little bit more muted, maybe a little bit more brown. Then we had Herbin Rouge Grenat. And look at the shading. It's so pretty. This ink is so nice, y'all. Yes. This one honestly is really close to Human Issue in terms of bloodiness as well. It's just much darker. The pigment in this is so strong. It is vibrant. It is so bright compared to some of the other ones. It's so beautiful. I do like this red ink. In writing, it is darker, as you can see, and then in a fine nibbed pen, it's a little bit more of this true color here in the red base. But most of the time when I write with it in a medium, because I like to put my Herbin inks in medium pens, it turns this color. It's this dark red color. It's really nice. And then we had Robert Oster's Pen Chalet exclusive Sedona Red. Again, this one is a bit more bloody looking. Comparing it again to the Human issue, it's pretty close. The shading on this one is similar, then it goes to more of a dark red color. It does have, it's almost like a grayish sheen to it, but I know it's supposed to be green, so I'm not really sure on that one. It's still beautiful. I love the Robert Oster Pen Chalet exclusive inks. I collected all of them in samples and I do not regret it. They are all fabulous. And lastly, we had Diamine Oxblood, the fan favorite, I would say. It doesn't look as bloody as when it dries down. Like I said, it's a bit more of a brown red color. The shading is gorgeous, dark reddish brown. The base is more of a lighter red brown, and then the sheen on it is almost like a green black. So very nice. This one's a bit more muted. I think this one would be a good everyday writer, honestly, which I think a lot of people who prefer red inks do go for this. And I don't see a problem with it. It's a very nice color. All right, that is all I have in terms of my bloody inks. I hope I didn't gross you out too bad, and I hope I didn't scare you when I opened up this video. I just wanted to make a Halloween special ink video, and I feel like this one was spot on for Halloween, right? It's a little spooky, but not horrible because this is fun, right? It's fun. If you're interested in any of the other ink explorations I have done, I will leave a playlist down in the description, and I will also put it up in the cards. I have really been enjoying making our way through the rainbow. I do have one more orange video still to go up, and then we will be moving on hopefully into some more reds and maybe some pinks or purples. I'll let you guys decide. But I'm really excited to see how this kind of ends out in the end of the year, if I will make it through my entire collection or not. We shall see. But I want to thank you guys so much for watching and for tuning in on Halloween if you're watching this on the day of. And yeah, I hope you have a good one and don't eat too many candies. All right, bye.